We're just going to talk a couple house cleaning things today. First of all, it's the last day of the month, so whatever you got hanging out there, definitely push to get that through, get it finalized. That's how we get paid. And you want to make sure it's a great transition time for the merchant to get finalized today. So next month is their first full month on our system. So, and also we're really winding down on EMV. I mean, EMV is coming to a head. October, I think, is it October 7th or something? I'd just say October 1st, make it simple. And it's kind of a supply and demand kind of thing. It's when there's a big rush to get EMV ready and everybody wants new equipment, making sure that we have the equipment, getting it out to them, getting it files built and getting it programmed. We definitely want to don't wait till the last minute because then they won't be ready. And we're all familiar with what EMV is, right? And we're familiar with why it's so imperative with the merchant to be EMV ready. And I know a lot of you guys on the call do because you've been at this a while, but for some of you new folks, for some of your new folks, it's really important because if a merchant is not EMV ready, they're all of a sudden assuming a lot of extra liability. And if someone taps in, grabs their credit card information, steals a bunch of credit card numbers and creates a lot of fraud, if that merchant wasn't EMV compatible, they're all of a sudden opening themselves up for that risk. So make sure that a couple different things. If you're new, don't wait to go after your targets. Get after them today because someone's going to be talking to them about EMV. If you have a portfolio of merchants, I know Cam's doing a lot of upgrading equipment for us because he's got a large portfolio. I know Brian's doing some of that if he's here today. So
good morning.
Go to your current. Good morning. Good to have you, buddy. So go to your portfolio, go to your existing merchants, and make sure they're EMV ready. And what else do you want to ask them? What do you guys ask them for when you're in there, making sure they're EMV ready after you do that? What else do you ask them for?
Referrals.
Referrals, yeah, exactly. So it's a great time to get in, get them EMV ready, which these guys are making a fair amount of money off this equipment too. So it's an opportunity to make a little money off the relationship again and making sure they're ready, and get a referral. Hey, who else do you know that needs to get EMV ready, or do you know anyone else that this would be a benefit for? So come in with the right language to get them ready and get a referral. And don't wait because we are seeing, I think Brian said the other day, him and I were having a conversation about it. He goes, man, it's almost hard to keep the equipment in stock for these guys because there's more demand than it's difficult to get equipment. So you want to make sure that you're definitely on that. Does everybody understand EMV?
Right.
Think so? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions on EMV? No? Okay. Clover, I know Amy and I had a conversation that John and I were having regarding Clover. The Clover Mini is already EMV ready. That's running already, so I would strongly recommend going with the Clover Mini for that. And also, let's make sure that when there's a little transition time with the Clover because it's not as simple as a credit card terminal. So what I want to make sure is when we're working with that merchant that I always call it setting the table or giving the merchant a timeline, making sure that they have a clear expectation of what's going to transpire when they're getting the Clover. So make sure they understand that we don't support the Clover as far as tech support here. So when they need to ask, like, what does the Clover do? What are these things? Does everybody have, or if you don't, make sure you get with your agent director. Make sure that you provide your merchant with the Clover help desk. Because we've had a handful of calls where merchants have come in here and then we just have to reroute them. And we don't want to make the merchant feel like they're kind of getting the runaround, if you will. Like, gosh, you know what? I called here and then I got to call here. You guys ever experienced that anywhere? You call someone, they go, oh no, you got to call this number, and we don't want to make sure. So if you're, and I recommend everybody Clovers. That's what you want to provide to your clients. And when you're doing that, make sure you provide them with the Clover help desk. And depending on what their needs are, and you should be working with your agent director with this, set the appropriate timeline for them. Give them an idea of when to expect it. It's not that just doesn't come out. Like a terminal, no problem, ship today. Clover things have to be built for the merchant So it's going to take an extra day or two to get out towards the merchant or get out to the merchant. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Timeline?
Yes, it does. Also, I'd like to add that
please do.
that
Cam,
help
you
desk
sold
is
a lot
very,
of them.
very, very helpful. They're very good.
They are really good. I've heard that more than once. That whatever the merchant has a question on, you call it, and they're great as far as disseminating that information to the merchant, and they tie them down. They make sure they understand it. It's not a real short quip. Yep. Here you go, and then the merchant's not real clear. They have a really deep understanding, and they should, right? I mean, that's what they should do. But so you use that too, Cam, right? I mean, you call them when you have questions throughout the sales process.
Yes, I have, and they're great. They're just super.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so make sure if you don't have that, you do have that, but definitely timeline them. I don't want the merchant to feel like that we've come in, we've signed them up, sold them a Clover, and we forgot about them. Make sure that they understand, it's going to there's some things that need to be built for you inside your Clover so it works the way you need it to work. And then when they get it through the installation process, make sure we call the Clover help desk to make sure that you want that running smooth, because this is new technology for a lot of merchants. Merchants that were on terminals, which were so simple, and Clover's simple too, but we just want to make sure they have the right tutorial and they have the right education to use it. And remind them of apps. Look, make sure they look for apps that'll benefit their business. And I think Cam and I think Brian and someone else who's moving a lot of Clovers right now have an idea of a handful of different apps that are applicable to their merchants. Know a little bit about the apps yourselves so you can make a recommendation for them. So,
maybe
anyway.
It's kind of like, how Wells Fargo always says, we want them to have 8 of our services. When Wells Fargo goes out, the corporate thing in sales is we want them to have as many services as possible so that they stay. Maybe kind of a similar way to think about this is, the more apps that somebody has that they're using, the more they're going to stick for a long, long, long time. You want them to look at Clover like, man, this is like a pivot point. It's like you and your cell phone these days. It'd be hard to live anymore without it. You want them to think of Clover like that, and it truly can. It's not just they really can.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool apps, and I think there's like 100 and something other apps in development, or probably more than that at this point. I mean, there's just really coming out with a lot of different, and I'm sure there's things on there that, just like on your phone, there's apps you'd never want, but there's a lot of apps that come up that I would make sure the merchant looks at it as kind of like a resource in that regard. Hey, if things come up in your business that you're wondering, technology kind of things that you're wondering how to deal with, definitely look at the Clover apps, because there's a lot of different apps in development that would really benefit you. I would guide them towards that, because I think at this point, if you have a smartphone, has everybody here purchased an app for their smartphone or downloaded a free one?
Sure.
I mean, we've all done that.
Yeah.
I want a loan app, or I want a gold app, or some, whatever's going on. And when you think about that, you go, oh, I'm going to go and see if there's an app for that. I would recommend getting them the same kind of mindset on their Clover. Hey, look, if things come up, maybe it's an inventory thing, a time clock thing, or, a check-in, check-out thing, definitely look at the different apps to see what would benefit you. And I have heard scenarios where merchants are, they're surfing for apps on their Clover just like they would on their cell phones, and finding cool little things that because you never really know what else they have going on and how that can be a benefit for them. So definitely guide them that way. It's a revenue source for you too if they're buying apps. There's additional revenue built into that. And like John said, and it's exactly what Wells Fargo, from the top down, that they preach inside their organization. Make sure our customers have at least 8 of our services, because this is an attrition game, right? When you get a merchant on, you want them to stay on forever.
Mm-hmm.
I think we do,
Yeah.
right? That's why we're in the residual game. So get 8 services in their hands, and Clover's a great way to get multiple services in their hands in a short period of time, and it's valuable for them. So make sure. what I want to do is, I don't have really anything. I just want to do a couple house cleaning items today since it's the last day of the month. I didn't want to take a lot of our Super Bowl play time here today, but so make sure we do the EMV and remember the Clover stuff. Is there any hurdles or roadblocks that we're running into out there that we want to address to help get things in and finalized for the end of the month? You guys are so good. No wonder. Any other questions?
Well, this is transition time too, with end of the summer, beginning of the fall, and kids going back to school. And this kind of symbolizes the beginning of the biggest time of the year for not only merchants, but to bring merchants on and to get them. There's no better time than now, going into the busiest time of the year, than right now to have the right sort of the right system to for the traffic to run through. We find that.
Absolutely.
We've been finding, like, having done this for 20 years, you finally start to see some trends, and you see that this is the time of year every year when we look at how much new business comes in. There's two peaks, and we're going to the peakiest peak right now in the fall, heading into the fall. So it's like October. So swinging into October is the biggest time. So September, which is tomorrow. So September builds into the biggest month. So right now is, I don't know if merchants are more recipient, more open, if it's just they're thinking about getting back into business and this is just their minds are more open. I don't know what it is, but it seems that this time of the year, we literally sometimes will have I wouldn't say 50%, but like 40% more. Like, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. Anyway,
so set yourself up right. Yeah, absolutely, and then just and this is a contact sport. I know you've heard it. I sound like a broken record sometimes, but this is definitely a contact sport. So you got to get it because and I'm working with a handful of new agents recently, and one of the agents that I dealt with is and he goes, you know what, I made the mistake, and I said, what's that? And he goes, I waited 2 weeks before calling this guy. And when I called him, literally and we've heard this happens, I can't tell you how many times, he was too late in the door. The guy's already made arrangements and moved on with someone else because he waited 2 weeks. Had he contacted him a couple weeks ago when he first went into your mind to make the contact, he would have had the account. So, when you're identifying those targets and you're getting those referrals, and don't hesitate. You got to get out there and make the contact and use your resources here. Get your agent director on the phone. If you get caught up in something, they don't get it, they'll pass it on to the next person in the chain, and we'll make sure we come up with the right solutions and answers for you. So, but just don't hesitate, make the contacts, because it is a great time. And as John said, and we've seen as high as a 40% increase this time of year. So this is a phenomenal time to really put the pedal to the metal. And especially if you're in the Northern Territory, I'd rather get most of it done now. So in January, February, I can, I don't have to I can stay out of the cold as much as I can. So
winter's just around the corner, Chuck.
I know. Tell me about it. You can feel it in the air. It's like in the morning when you go outside, you go, man, fall is coming, and I think I did see some leaves that had started changing already, and I'm going, man, it's not even September yet, and this is going on. But I was promised by the weather guy Indian summer, but he's lied to me before, so we'll see how that works. But anyway, if there's nothing else, I guess we should let's get our stuff done for the month and really let's kick it and prep for September. So thanks for coming, guys. We'll see you next week. Don't forget tomorrow, especially for the newer folks. Don't forget tomorrow that we have a case study call. So we'll go through the case study call. Great experience to kind of accelerate you seeing more deals than just what you have on your plate and seeing different scenarios. So thanks again for coming, and we'll see you guys next Monday.